sharing your stories and playing your songs on Graham's JFDI Show.
And there we go. And we're live now. 8:30? No, 8 o'clock. Why would I even say 8:30? 8 p.m. Thursday evening. And I'm really excited to bring you another wonderful guest on the JFDI podcast, the JFDI show. And do you know what I'm super excited about, and I'm super chuffed that it's kind of happened the way that it has, is that so this evening's guest, a bit of an introduction. We have a bit of a shared passion. We met earlier this year. His other interests include MMA, a participant of the sport. He's into Warhammer. I might need to ask him more about it. I don't know very, very much about that. Loves nature, loves pizza. Day job, bit of a business and economics teacher or tutor. A wonderful gentleman who, in the space of about 24 hours of meeting him, I'll just bring him in and we'll explain it live. It's the easiest way. Ladies and gentlemen, on to the JFDI podcast tonight. In the week that saw me receive my certificate, Wim Hof Method Instructor Level 1, it is my big pleasure to introduce you to fellow Wim Hof instructor and my roommate from the Master Module in Poland, George Sakoulas. Good evening.
Good evening. How's it going? Yeah, perfect.
I did. Okay, good. Brilliant. How are you?
Sakoulas. I'm great. Yeah, I've got the cool right in there. S-A.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pronounced cool, the K-O-U-L.
So it is. It's George Coulas.
Yeah, exactly. Love my ice baths. I was gonna have a cold shower to cool the jets before I was gonna drop into this, but I got too caught up with sorting out a camera and everything because I thought it was just gonna be audio. So, but I like that. I decided to just go with it. Embracing the discomfort and finding the comfort in the comfort. And the comfort and the discomfort. In this case, that's you, my old roomie. I actually haven't seen you since the masterclass, face to face. We've spoken, but
we spoke on the phone, but we've not seen each other face to face. It's nice, isn't it?
It is nice. Yeah,
well, it is for me. I don't know if it is for you or not.
Yeah, I think have you lost weight?
Maybe a little bit. I'm kind of trying to practice what I preach. I'm kind of trying to shed a few pounds. I'm trying to continue to become in the best shape of my life because I'm out there preaching and helping other people to become happier, stronger, healthier. Then I need to be doing it myself, don't I? And that includes getting rid of a bit of timber when need be, right?
Yep. When I posted on my Instagram that I was going to be on the show, I also announced my experiment with a plant-based diet. You remember all the vegans that were on the course with us? And there was on the first day, some of us,
Talk a little bit about it.
Some of us were a little bit like, I was anyway. I was kind of like almost shamefully putting a schnitzel on my plate. I was like, is this okay? Like some of the others who were smokers and like smoking around the back, going out because they were just, and then on the last day they were just owning it, just standing in the front, like, okay. But I had some nice conversations with some of the vegan, some nice conversations with a lot of people there, and it was really cool because you and I would kind of have our little debrief at the end of the day that would go on for hours. And during the day, we just kind of we just go off and explore conversations and experiences with other people. So thinking about this vegan thing, I've been doing it for now a week. This is day 8. And I weighed myself and I feel myself getting stronger, less mind fog, more clarity. And I'm losing weight at the same time, which is kind of the holy grail, right?
Yeah,
to
well,
lose weight.
You look just here a little bit kind of, yeah. Like
The
it's coming
cheekbones
off.
are coming through.
Yeah. You'd notice
Yeah,
it
you
even
should see
more
my waist.
than a big bush.
But it's like, you know, like when you pinch yourself, like I'm turning 40 at the start of September. And, you know, like the sort of like the love handles one acquires during their 30s, you know, that sort of like you pinch it here on your side.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds kind of gross, but like just with a week of being off dairy, off eggs, off meat, anything that's animal based, I can feel that softening up. I don't know if that makes any medical sense, but it feels like it's softening up, and it's just like ready to start melting off of me. So I'm pretty excited about this. It's a challenge, but I'm excited. And today, you mentioned the MMA. Today I went in and did 2 hours of training at the Gauntlet, Muay Thai, and it felt different. Like, you know, some of this might be pillar 3, as we'd say, as in the Wim Hof method, like mindset. But I do think that there is, I mean, surely somebody who's more medically savvy than me can vouch for this, that there is definitely some kind of, I don't know if in 1 week it you know, your arteries will start unblocking and the blood flow will get better, but it really felt like it today in the gym. I'll tell you that. I felt like pretty good. I was I was training with an 18-year-old kid. He's been training for 2 months now, turned 18, signed up right away, and really, you know, keen, eager beaver. I told him at the end of the class, like, you know, I'm old enough to be your dad, and he was like, couldn't believe it. But it's really helped.
I think I did it for 52 days a few years ago, and finally broke on the top of Ben Nevis when my mate offered me a beef roll.
Oh no! In your weak moment, right there at the peak.
Yeah. I've still got a video of him. He's probably a friend of mine who swears more than anybody else I know. He said that he can't come on here because it would just be beep, 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 beep. And halfway up Ben Nevis, I took this video of him and I said, "Could you be vegan?" And he was like that. And I've just recorded an absolute tirade of abuse about why becoming vegan is a ridiculous idea. Roll the clock forward about 10 years. He's done it as well. He's done it as well. I think I think he did it for a month, and pretty much everything that you've said, everything that I experienced, which was again, I kind of felt more fluid, I guess, but you know, less congested, you know, both physically and lighter, definitely.
Did you feel that sort of a bit of focus? Like I feel a little bit more focused. Like when I'm talking, I can kind of like
less distracted.
My mind, it's just like it goes in one narrative. I don't get sidetracked by my own thoughts as much.
Yeah. Talking of being sidetracked and getting distracted, that's us 10 minutes in, and we've not even made the slightest mention of music.
Well, it's your show, man.
There we go.
I'm just happy to be here.
No, do you know what? I love it because this happens, right? You come on, it's like conversation, and it's why I love doing this face to face, because until I have, you know, the capabilities to do it in a studio, and I'd love to do that, you know, the Joe Rogan style in the studio and kind of really proper face to face. This is just going to have to make do, but it's good. It's good, and we can go. So I just, for anybody that's watching that's not watched the show before, the whole premise of the song choices is I ask my guests to choose 4 or 5 songs that have played an important part in their life, or you know, were around you know, and meant a lot to them, whatever it may be, remind them of an occasion, but just songs that are special to them. And then we talk through them, and then I usually go off on a tangent and ask questions all over the place, but it's lots of fun. So George tonight has given me 4 songs. Actually,
and it was hard. It was hard to trim them down.
But you managed to trim it. So most people will give me like half a dozen songs, and I'll be like, you need to lose 1 or 2. And they'd be like, oh, some people have given me, like, you know, one person couldn't choose and just came on and said, I just want the 80s
I'll
as a
tell you,
choice.
like, because we were talking about this way back in Poland, and so it's always popped up in my mind, and I was thinking, and I wasn't worried about, you know, because I'm a public speaker by profession, I guess you could say, and as a teacher. So, and before that, I was in digital marketing. So, you know, that wasn't the thing, but it kind of echoed the experience on the masterclass of, you know, the hardest part for me that was then, and the hardest part that's been for me throughout my life is allowing myself to be vulnerable. You know,
Okay.
so like I was thinking, giving him 3 songs, and if it was 10 songs, you know, it's less vulnerability, less sort of you know, whereas if you bring it down to 3, then it's like 3 impactful songs. So I was really thinking hard about how I was going to approach it. I was like, am I going to go like with the old 3 songs if I was on a desert island approach, like songs that just like playability? Am I going to go about it in terms of like songs that like say something about certain times in my life, you know, so I could like create sort of a narrative around that? And this, in the end, the songs that I did pick are kind of like, I went sort of, because I did overanalyze it as I do, and I thought past, present, future. So I thought, because the 3 songs, like 3 songs, one that represents sort of, or reminds me or makes me think of the past, one song that for me kind of reflects where, you know, I'm kind of at here, or where I've been in the recent, and one song that for me represents the future. Not necessarily songs that like are my go-to songs for this, that, or the other, but some of them do have, I mean, obviously they all do. There's a memory attached to them when I came across them, when I was listening to them a lot more, you know, like, is it okay to call out some of the songs that I've given you?
Well, I'll tell you what to do.
Or how do you want to do it?
You take them in an order of stuff, but I think what's lovely about what you've explained tonight is, let's start with the past. So tell us about your past and about your song choice.
So why. The past was a duel between Deep Purple and Lynyrd Skynyrd. It was a duel between Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple and Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird. And the reason is, like, if I go deep, like if I really want to go with where it all kind of started, that would be Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water. Because one of my earliest memories in my mind, and definitely like my earliest memory of my father, was hearing him playing that song on his guitar in the basement of our house in Brooklyn. And I went down to the basement as you know a kid does. I must have been 6, something like that. I mean, we left that house. We moved out when I was 8, so I definitely was, you know, pretty young. Yeah. And he showed me how to play it on the guitar, because it's dan, 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 and you only need 2 fingers and to use 3 frets on the guitar to do it. And he had his big old, he had his Les Paul Gibson Deluxe Gold Top, which we still have it, and he was playing it through his I think it's like a 300 or 400 watt amp that he built himself. Because that's, you know, because my dad is like my dad's like the original hipster, like the proto hipster generation. They weren't trying to look that way or do that stuff. That's just how they rolled.
Yeah, that's some serious power, that is.
It's somewhere knocking about that thing as well. Wow. And just like it made an impression on me how powerful like it felt, because I was this tiny little kid and I was barely touching the strings, but it just like dun, 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 you know, because in my little kid mind, like the power that these musicians, it came from somewhere else, not from like electric wizardry, but it was like, you know, that really made an impression on me. I had no idea what the song meant, or I didn't know anything. I had no musical palette at the time, but that's a song that kept coming back, you know, as things do in cycles at different stages in my life. You know, I found out later that it was actually, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know where I heard this, that Smoke on the Water is meant to be like the smoke that settles at the top of a bong. other interpretations, something to do with because they recorded that album in Switzerland.
Do I look like a dude that would know what you're talking about there?
I don't know. Maybe. What's that growing behind you?
I hadn't heard that, but
I don't know if it's true or not, but I dig it. So I was just like, yeah, smoke on the water.
Yeah.
During my heavy stoner phase, and then there's another interpretation I heard that it has something because they recorded the album in Switzerland, which has lots of lakes. That the smoke on the water represents the morning mist that sort of like hovers over the lake, which I also like. I like that a lot. But for me personally, as George, it always is. It takes me back to that memory where and I kind of like I learned how to play guitar myself later when I was 12. I broke my wrist skating, so I kind of had to give up on it for a while, and then I got from kind of like into the guitar and that sort of stuff. I got really into action sports and really committed a big chunk of my youth to that and doing nothing but that. Lots of injuries that came along with it, adrenaline sports. But it does.
Who was your hero back then? Did you have like a?
I didn't have like a one because like I started with skateboarding when I was a kid. I saw Marty McFly was my hero, my skateboard hero, and the hoverboard in Back to the Future. He was my skateboard hero. And then,
I think that might be the coolest hero that anybody's had on here.
Yeah, forget about like Tony Hawk and those guys. Marty McFly, that's legend. Travel time beat that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic! I like that.
And then I got into inline skating a lot. In the 90s. Like right at the start of it when it was, my brother got me rollerblades, or my parents got me rollerblades. My brother put his name on it, I think, before like the whole aggressive inline skating thing really took off. They were just like clunky old things. I had roller skates before those. So because it was like so early days, there were no legends, there were no heroes. I was kind of the hero in my own mind. There was a comedian I was watching the other day who said everybody thinks they're the man on fire. They're like the lead man in their own movie, when in reality we're probably just like an extra. Like you're not the man on fire. You don't walk. Pigeons don't fly. White doves don't fly by when you get out of your car. But in my mind at the time, I thought, I would watch the skate videos and the pros. I had some guys that I like admire their style, or I'd see a trick they did, but it wasn't so much they were my heroes as much it was like, yeah, I could try that. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that too, So it's a different kind of story with inline skating, because at least with us old guys, we all feel like we're, a typical conversation on a skate park was you did a trick and you were like, I invented that trick, because it was so early days, and somebody would be like, no, I did it. And who's to say who really invented it? Because the odds are with so many people who were doing it, somebody put their legs this way or that way and did the same thing. It's just, so I never really had a hero. There are guys later, who again, I would say more inspiration than heroes.
Oh, okay. Who's at the top of the tree there, would you say?
I don't know right now, like who's top of the tree at the moment. There's a lot of young guys who are just, it's probably some no-name kid in Hungary who's just doing crazy stuff that I've probably never heard of.
So here's how we can narrow it down, because I did have this down as a question, and it might be for inspirational reason. It might just be for sheer skill, power, brute force. Who is your favorite MMA fighter of all time?
Of all time, I would have to say Anderson Silva, but he's retired now. But I think I would have to say Anderson Silva. Although there are a couple of other guys that are up there as well. But again, whenever the guys I like to follow and the guys that I'm big fans of are usually fighters that either have my body type or a similar sort of philosophy towards the sport, or something that I can identify with either physically, mentally, or spiritually, emotionally.
Okay. Have you got an example?
Yeah, Anderson Silva. He's 6'1", just about. He's Muay Thai fighter who also stuffs a lot of takedowns, keeps it standing. He's long and rangy. He's a middleweight, and does some kind of trickery, some kind of wizardry. Chuck Liddell, the Iceman. Actually, that was his nickname.
Nicholas, you see the comments popping up?
Yeah, see, he said it. Yeah, Chuck Liddell, the Iceman. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So
definitely.
A few there.
At the moment, the guy that Leon Edwards, who just he's an English fighter who's been training out of Birmingham. He just won the welterweight championship from a guy that they thought from a guy who was about to, when Leon Edwards fought Kamaru Usman, which was I think last weekend. If Kamaru Usman had won that, and most people thought that he would have just they was just going to steamroll through Leon, he would have tied Anderson Silva for the longest winning streak in the UFC history.
Whoa.
Which is a big thing. And now that has just been reset by a guy who, a lot of casual fans probably never heard of, who's been training out of his gym in Birmingham consistently with the same guys, same coaches. He insisted that you don't have to go to the States and join some big name, one of these champion factories that just churn them out gyms, to win a championship, and he proved it. He was losing, arguably he was losing the whole fight the whole time. And he just KOs Usman stiff with a basic jab, head kick, a basic combination, just blinds him with the jab, didn't even really mean it, and he didn't see the high kick coming, the head kick coming. Classic. Just game over. You learn it on week 1 of joining a gym. And he did it in the last of 5 rounds. It's just people were like,
did that just happen?
Well, yeah, and what does this mean? Because this guy was supposed to be he's going to be one of the greatest of all time, Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, and all this stuff. But no, it just goes to show. Yeah, right now he's my hero.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know the name. I'm embarrassed actually, but I'm not quite as you know, I'm not quite as clued up on MMA as I am with boxing. But I'll
but you asked that gateway question and got me running. I know. I'm halfway through my coffee now as well. You know how I get.
Oh no, right? We better go on to. So we've kind of touched on Deep Purple, and you did mention Leonard Skinner. So I think what we'll do is, do you want to
Skinner? Freebird.
About Freebird. Yeah,
Freebird was when I was drinking.
Can I ask just before you talk about that specifically? Why were you kind of tied so closely between these two?
Because they they kind of represent a part of my past when I was, kind of really romanticizing the rock and roll cliche, and really kind of living it to the best of my ability or the worst of my ability. And I mean, well, the Deep Purple, it's that thing about the past. It's that thing about the past. So, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water is where it kind of all started. I wasn't romanticizing it in any way at the age of 6, but, my parents put me in classical guitar, wanted me to learn it the right way, and all that. And I broke my wrist and just picked up the electric guitar again in college because I didn't need to finger pluck. I didn't need to be too technical. I could just, and impress whoever, and just get drunk and play or get high and just make a lot of noise and feel good about myself.
Was there a gap then from when you broke your wrist and couldn't play? Was there a gap between that you a time that you weren't playing at all.
Yeah, it was pretty much all throughout all my teens in a way. And what brought me back into it was my little brother, who had no interest in the guitar whatsoever. Didn't have much of an interest in music, but something kind of switched on when he was in college, and he kind of got into music in a bigger way. And my brother, I had experimented with alcohol and cannabis from a pretty young age, like 13, 14. Not consistently, like literally just experimenting. Um, and then, but my brother was the complete opposite. He didn't touch any of that stuff until college. And it's a bit of a cliche, but he just, weed makes music sound better. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. And even though it didn't, it kind of didn't work out well for him, because he ended up having, onset of mental illness because of it. But he did start playing a pretty rocking guitar, and actually he still does. I still really like listening to him. He doesn't. He tries to sing, and he's pretty good at impersonating voices, but he hasn't really found his own voice. Yeah. But he plays him in guitar, and he was just playing one day, and I could hear him just out of nowhere. Just the electric guitar turns on, and I hear the entire solo to Stairway to Heaven. No, the whole song, solo included, from top to bottom, played perfectly. And I think it's coming through this. I just walk over. I think I must have been high as well. This is first year of college, so statistically speaking, 99.9% chance I was. No, it was second year, I think. Because and so I walk over to the room, and there he is, just wailing away on my dad's guitar, and I was like, "What? What just possessed you?" And he had been practicing for months to learn how to play this song. He never knew how to play anything else. He was practicing for months with just with the electric guitar, but no amp, no sound, just his headphones on.
Oh wow!
And he just thought he'd give it a go, full whack, with the ambiance of the room. And I was like, huh? Where did that come from? And he's like, I've been practicing for months. I'm like, okay, I'm just using that song. You wanted to learn how to play that song.
Yeah.
And that really from that point on, I was like, dude, keep playing. Can I play with you? And because his room was right across the hall from me, and that's kind of how we got into it.
Okay.
Or I got back into it, and he got into it in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and so is that Skinnerd Freebird?
Skinnerd was Freebird. No, I was Freebird. I never learned how to play Freebird. I never learned how to play the solo to Freebird as much as I would have liked to. The 10-minute solo, at the end. But I'm not a soloist. I have 5 degrees that are missing on the rotation of this wrist that holds the neck of the guitar. So I literally, when I hold the neck of the guitar, I'm in physical pain, actual physical pain in this hand. And I've severed the tendon on this thumb here, which is what holds the pick. So, it's, of all the instruments that I could play, the guitar is the most challenging one for me. But it's also, but the pain and the discomfort of it all makes, when I do play, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it, but it's very personal for me in many ways, because I explore a lot of different emotions when I do play. I'm not a performer. My brother likes to perform.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the story? And I'll come back to your hand, because you mentioned about injuries. I'll come back to. But what was the story behind your choice of Freebird?
Freebird was always I like to call it my. I'll paint a picture for you. When you go out with your mates or whatever, and towards the end of the night, it gets kind of, the floor is dirty. They're about to put the lights up on, and there's that guy who just wants to keep the party going, man.
Yeah.
And it's like the male version of that, the girl who still trying to get onto the table, and her skirt's starting to ride up a little bit. She's missing a shoe, and her hair's kind of like the male version of that on the floor, just kind of like, rocking out on his own a little too aggressively. You kind of don't want to tell him to stop because he's obviously very intoxicated, really into like what he's doing right now, and just let him ride out. Let him ride out Freebird. That Freebird was that song for me. Like at the end of the night, I'd go up to the DJ and be like, "You gotta play Freebird, man. Just give me a couple more. Just give me one more beer, one more chaser, Freebird. I'm out of here. I'll leave you guys alone." So it was kind of that. It was like it would punctuate. It was the punctuation of many a night of debauchery.
Right. Okay.
In the past.
So it's almost.
There's a reason why it was that song for me, and it's in the lyrics as well. It's not just the guitar solo at the end, because I have this like sort of intimate connection with the guitar as an instrument. That's where the Smoke on the Water comes in. That early memory of that amp. My dad played in a band. Apparently, he told me that I don't remember it, but he used to jam with his bandmates. I don't remember his bandmates practicing in the basement. I do remember that one time when it was just him, Smoke on the Water, and he showed it to me.
Yeah.
But Freebird was kind of like, the lyrics of it. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? The opening line. I lived in 3 different countries. I didn't stay in the same school for more than like 3 years. A big part of when I think of the discomfort, in my life, my first experiences of trying to find comfort in the discomfort physically, it was all the different kinds of injuries that I've had. Which I wrote a post on that actually on the Wim Hof Academy on my, there's a little community where you could basically blog on your profile. Yeah, it's called Unbreakable. Check it out. I've written it all there about that aspect of it.
Okay.
And
remind me. I'll give that a read, but remind me. It's actually, we'll have it as the last question. It's complete. It's perfect in relation to the lyrics there. If I leave,
if I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me?
Still remember me. Yeah. Last question.
Like, it's a bit of a cliche, but like, people who, I'm not the only person, I'm not the man on fire. I'm not the only person who's moved around a lot. You as an ex-military person, there's like, military brats, as they say, that they're always moving around. Every time their parents get redeployed somewhere else, it's like Control Alt Delete, rinse repeat, start all over again, which is, it gives you a clean slate. But it also, it can be pretty lonely. On the one hand, you learn to adapt a lot. You learn to adapt very quickly, and not forming attachments can be a healthy thing. It can also be a really unhealthy thing. Like it could become pathological.
Is that how many moves did you have? Do you think? Because I could have touched on this right at the beginning, because of course you have a very American accent. You talked about childhood in Brooklyn. You now live in London, which I'm talk about, but you were actually from Greece originally, right?
I was born in the States, then we left Brooklyn, moved to Greece for less than a year, and then moved to the UK. A couple of schools there as well, and then back to Greece, one school there, then back to the UK, college, back to Greece, couple of jobs, back to the UK, another college, couple of jobs, and here I am. I think that's it. Yeah. And although it's 3 countries and not like all around the world, different military bases, it's a lot of restarting over. Some people live in the same town their whole life and they go to a different school down the road, and it's just like, well, a whole new me, Yeah.
Okay, let's ask this now, because it's a perfect time. So that's kind of the past there, and you spoke about all the moving around. I'm sure there's some other stuff that we'll come on to, but was there a point there, and you talked about that reveling, You know, that free bird, that sort of end of the night, too much to drink, all of that malarkey.
Yeah.
Through all of that, guitars, stoner phase, the whole 9 yards.
Rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Correct. What was there a moment in your life or an event that kind of made you completely reevaluate how you were living?
So, to keep it short, there were and you know, again, not the man on fire. It's another cliche. Few close brushes with death were enough to set me.
Do you want to talk about one of them?
To force me to reflecting. Well, I kind of want to talk about the songs a little bit more, but because I had, but it is kind of.
Mate, it's cool. It's cool, but
you know, like if self-destruction, you know, which whether you're having one shot, you know it's not good for you. If whether it's just one shot or you know, if you have high blood pressure, a cup of coffee, you know, these kind of things. We do things knowing that they're not good for us. Either like my brother-in-law, he says he smokes, and he knows it's not good for him. And every time I'm like, you know, bro, you ever thought about quitting? Look, try vaping, try patches. Look, try these like snus, you know, tobacco lids, this, and he's like, I'm sure they're great fun, but smoking's just cooler. And that's that. I dig it. It tastes good. I like it. It goes good with my coffee, and it feels good. And I'm okay with I'm okay with knowing that this is not good for me, right? I'm not trying to say that everything that we do, that every time that somebody makes a decision to do something that's not good for them, the root cause of it is some kind of discontent with your own life, you know, like that it's like that every shot of drink or every line of coke or every cigarette somebody smokes, that there's a little part of them somewhere that, you know, wants to punish themselves for something, and maybe that's because they feel guilty about something, or they're trying to fill a void, or they're trying to hide something, you know, like no, sometimes it's just as simple as I just like it and there's nothing more to it. But sometimes there is another underlying reason for it. You know, if it's going against your true inner nature, which for most people it is to survive, and you know, some people have a stronger survivor instinct than others, you know, and in the process of trying to survive one thing, you might lose sight of, you know, your true self. So, you know, in a nutshell, for me, it was self-destruction. I think, slowly trying to kill myself with alcohol and other things, you know, and even some of the sports I was doing could be argued that, you know, you're taking high risk, but the mindset was different when I would be trying to do a trick, or I'd be going up a mountain that was way out of my skill set, but I thought, let me have a go, you know. I don't know. I haven't really figured it all out, you know, to be honest with you. It's part of exploring, of going within and exploring myself, but taking it too far.
Yeah. And what changed there? How has your mindset then kind of approached to adapt, I guess, is maybe the best.
I don't know. And it's just like, it was almost like an overnight thing. I was this hardline atheist before that. And that was that event, you know, like putting my fist through a glass window and cutting myself with the glass. And then, you know, facing the possibility of this being the end. And then, you know, dealing with the reality of, it's not. And then having to lay in the bed that you've made for yourself, all within a 24-hour period, you know, all of it happening so fast. It was like some kind of, like, I got some kind of like emotional, spiritual whiplash that felt like pseudo not pseudo, but yeah, like kind of like it was the start of kind of exploring a spirituality about, thinking about life, death, the past, the present, the future, and all of that. It all kind of started there. I didn't see a white light. I didn't hear an angel's voice or anything like that. I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't feel that some people do, right? They say that some people suddenly feel the impulse, the need to beg for their lives, or to ask for forgiveness from some higher power. I didn't.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you
but
just
I felt
decided
something.
it was time to make some changes, right?
Yeah, I was, because it was kind of, it was more like what there's a song actually there's a line that says, I met my maker and I made him cry.
Okay.
And it's, for me, in my case, I was my own maker. It's kind of what we're going back about heroes,
Yeah.
or I always looked inside of myself for motivation intrinsically. I never looked to be like anyone else. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I did meet my maker that night, and I did make him cry. And I cried a lot from that day forward. Sobriety can be a bitch.
Yeah.
um, um,
So what did you do in regards drink? Did you kick it 100%, or did you just kind of curtail it, or what
I
happened?
think I went 2.5 years, I think it was, maybe more, without a drop, without even, I didn't even want to go
You know?
into. Yeah, but I was doing it I had just forsaken any of my friends who were still
Mm.
about that life. I very consciously avoided going to any place that was serving alcohol. That was the first year and a half. You know, and then I started saying, okay, if I'm really okay with myself and okay with this right now, I can be around other people who are drinking. I can be in a bar and just have a whiskey. Oh, sorry, a lime and soda, not a whiskey soda. You see, old habits.
Just the
It's like
one, just
muscle.
the one.
It's
Mine
like
says
it's like
it's
muscle
okay.
memory.
It'll be
It's like
fine. Have
it's like
another.
muscle memory. That's messed up.
But how hard was that first 2.5 years? Or the situations where you started to put yourself in company and not
Yeah, and
drinking.
that's where the more growth started happening out of that, because
Yeah.
there were people who I was with, and it was like, I found them quite boring, like I was like, damn, I guess I only found you interesting because I was, yeah, man, free bird, free bird. And then there were other
Yeah.
people who were really interesting until they started drinking,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, like, call me in the morning when you want to get a coffee, bro.
Do you know it's the one thing that I would say to anybody who is even like contemplated going without booze for a prolonged period of time, and that is one of those occasions, right? An occasion where it's going to be big, like a family wedding, or like a guy's like reunion, or a weekend away, or something where there's going to be more than the opportunity to have one or two. My
Yeah.
advice is to go along to one of those occasions and not drink,
Hmm.
and just
It will change
see
your
it
whole perception.
from a different perspective. Yeah, yeah, I'm right. Am I
And
not?
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. And if somebody feels that they don't feel that they, go with a wingman who will just be like, slapping your hand if you're tempted,
Yeah,
a nanny, so to speak.
yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? So what? So do you drink at all now? Maybe occasionally, or
Um,
just
I haven't. When was the last drink I had? I think the last drink I had was probably Christmas time or some occasion like that. Valentine's Day, I think. Valentine's Day.
okay.
We had a little bit of we let loose a little bit.
I hear you.
But it's
Right.
it's well within control. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
But
I
I
love it.
think I was one of those people that was right on the line of alcoholism. Like it was getting to that point, like right before, everything was just kind of building up, and it was
Yeah.
right on the line. I did feel a lot of the symptoms that they talk about.
Yeah. In fact, forget that, because it'll open up another can of worms. Maybe later, if time. I was gonna say about
The next song,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The next song.
"Stop Crying Your Heart Out" by Oasis.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah,
This one?
actually, it came on the radio about a week ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. That's the song. I was trying to think what song, would represent kind of where, how I feel about, with hindsight being 2020, which is, and tying it into Freebird, right? Because the song Freebird is all about, it's called Freebird, as if, and the lyrics almost imply that to be truly free, you have to, like, freedom is being completely detached. It is having the ability to, just flap your wings and off you go. There is a little bit of like that a little bit of pain in the song as well. That's all he carried. That's all you carry with you when you go, is a little bit of a, will you remember me? Does it even matter?
Yeah.
I don't know. But and Stop Crying Your Heart Out is more about, it's about, for me, it represents looking back over your shoulder and seeing the past for what it is, and accepting it for what it is, and accepting that you can't change it, and and reframing things. That's what I'm trying to do. Reframe. Freebird is still one of my favorite songs, and I still will rock out to it, and it still gets my heart going, and I feel it. But I just, for me, freedom means something different now, which is the freedom to choose whether you want to. Yeah, sure, okay, you might be capable of flapping your wings, whenever, wherever. I think anybody is. But real freedom is not just being a bird of flight like that, but also having the freedom to choose to set up a nest, if you will, to hunt, this, that, or the other. True freedom is not being fully detached or fully attached, but having the freedom to do what as and when.
Yeah.
And so being in the present, looking over in my case, everything in the past. And like I said, I did cry a lot. It wasn't like, oh, yay, now I'm sober and enlightened. I have found, whatever. And, namaste. No, it was it was painful. Like growing out of the mistakes I made, growing out of the, out of the processing of everything that I was just stuffing down, and I'll deal with it later. And then all the skeletons come out of your closet. Like,
Letting go
it was
of the
hard.
past.
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. And growth, it's like growing pains, man. Like, they hurt. It hurts, You break a bone and it calcifies, it grows back stronger, but the process of growing back stronger really hurts.
Yeah.
So
that there's,
stop crying your heart out.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
Stop crying your heart out and find the comfort in the discomfort of your, of whatever it is that whatever your past might mean to you or other people, or any guilt you might have about something, or shame about something else, or regrets about things you did or didn't do, or whatever. Find a way to be comfortable with that, because don't ignore it. That made you who you are today. It made you who you are today.
Yeah,
so there's nothing to cry about.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
So I wrote down this question, but there's a much bigger question there as well. So I wrote down, when was the last time you cried?
I almost cried when I played the 3 songs in a row just to kind of get myself to feel to lock myself in emotionally and
Yeah,
commit, and they almost drew a tear.
you almost went.
No, I didn't almost fully go, but it was like there was almost a tear of nostalgia
Yeah, I know.
that
I know what you mean.
came. But I think the last time I cried was when I found out the gender of because we're expecting a baby. So when I found out I'm having a girl,
Congratulations.
I went,
It's not
and the
long
time.
now, is it?
Thank you. And before that, and well, it was a few tears. I really went on the first scan when I saw her like moving around and everything. I was trying to hide it too. I wasn't trying to
You're,
hide it.
you're
I was
first,
trying to
right?
be I was trying to be strong. I was trying to be strong for the missus, you know. I was like holding her hand and stroking. I was like, yes, yes. Yeah, tears of joy. Tears of joy. So the last time I cried, the last 2 times I cried were both tears of joy.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, first child, right?
On the master class, I let quite a few tears go as well. But those were also, they weren't sad tears. They were catharsis. They were like a catharsis and joy as well. Hard
Yeah.
to put into words. Some of the experiences we had there with the meditation and the breathing exercises. Yeah.
So I tie in because we want to talk about the master module. We want to talk about your experiences with the Wim Hof method as well. But kind of, maybe this is part of the story. I don't know, but that bigger question I was going to ask you around stop crying your heart out, and you mentioned about letting go. How have you managed that? How have you taken that, baggage, demons, all of those,
Yeah.
perceptions, call them limiting beliefs, your,
Limiting
whatever you
beliefs.
want, how did you, bring it all up from having it all stuffed down and just let it go? How did you start that process?
Stopped crying my heart out and started breathing my heart out and singing it out, like
Yeah.
it's just it started with breathing, with breath work.
So how did you find your way to that?
Well, it was the whole journey of having more clarity and starting to question my own emotional, my own spirituality, the spiritual journey. I hate using the word spiritual because it's like, I heard somebody say it recently. I don't, it was, what's his name? Louis Theroux, the documentary guy?
Yeah.
He said on a show, I don't believe in God, but I believe in religion.
Okay.
And I think it's a very clever writer's way of, rephrasing spirituality. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was your question?
Give us the breadcrumbs. So, I was going to say, did it start with the clarity that came from stopping drinking? What were the kind of stop drinking, that clarity, and then how did you find the breathing, and then how did you come to Wim Hof method?
It was I started reading about shamanism. I started reading about Buddhism. I took a couple of yoga classes with my sister. Why not? And then during the lockdown, I was watching Joe Rogan. I was just putting on playlists because it was an easy way to kill time. It's 2, 3, 4 hour long. Just put them back to back, and you could spend a whole day. And I think I had fallen asleep on the sofa, and at some point I heard that it was an old episode. I had seen it. I think when Wim Hof was on it way back when, I had seen it then, but I didn't give too much thought about it. And then I saw him again, and then my partner, she was watching Goop. It came out around then as well, the Gwyneth Paltrow thing, and he was on that. He was on that too. And as soon as she saw that, she wouldn't stop banging on about it because she was like, "Here's this is George is gonna dig this. He does extreme stuff. He's got a beard. it's not so. And I was like, yeah, I heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him. I know the guy, and we both started. And she recommended that I start doing, because I was kind of getting a little bit down on myself. It was a little bit of a lull there. I wasn't working. I couldn't practice all the things that I was doing for myself, like
Okay.
you know, like like working and going to the gym. Although, to be fair, I could have gone to the gym more, but I was a little paranoid about getting COVID as well. So, um,
Okay. Yeah.
so I didn't know what to do. A lot of people went through the same thing, right? So I had a cold shower. I did it all wrong. Now I know, hindsight, that I was doing it wrong. I just sort of went in and just like try and pushed my way through it.
You were in the shower.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I just went in and started shivering and things, and I was taking it too far, of course, as I do.
To the extreme, rather than having control. And
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing it the way you should, like ease my way and slowly get comfortable, go a little bit longer, go a little bit colder, little by little. I went full whack, and I was like, I'm gonna stay in here for 15 minutes. I'm gonna stay in here until the answers come to me, until I'm okay.
moment.
Huh?
Buddha had to wait 12 years against a tree, but I'm going to stand in the shower for 3 days if it takes that long.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Okay.
And then I started doing the breathing, and the breathing was really interesting. And I had done breath work before, way back when I was in college, first year when I was in college. Excuse me. They had book sales, buy one get one free, and I bought 2 or 3. No, it wasn't that. It was at my university. They had really cheap posters, really cheap books, really stuff like that. So I was buying lots of books that I never was going to read. I got kung fu books. I was like, I'm going to read this, bro, and I'm going to become like Bruce Lee. And I was getting all kinds of books about weed and drugs and hippy dippy stuff. And I also picked up 2-3 books about Tantra.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to learn some crazy sex positions. And I started reading them, hoping that they were going to make me some kind of sex guru. But they weren't. And it was like chapter after chapter about breathing and your diaphragm and, yoni this and this, that, the other. And I was like, okay. And I was like, when are they going to get to this? The only reason why I read them was I kept reading. When are they going to get to that? There was no pictures. First thing I did was look for pictures. No pictures. So I was like, okay, they're going to describe the positions at some point in here. So the only reason why I read them, thinking.
Okay. So the truth is, you got into
at the time
at the end because you wanted to be George Stud.
No, I wanted to be able to take on the cold. I wanted to be. No, I was listening to him when I was listening to him on the podcast, and he was talking about the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and the only other place that I had heard the phrase sympathetic nervous system was in a doctor's appointment when I was saying, "Why do my hands and my feet sweat so much?" This has been the bane of my life growing up as a kid. When you right from childhood, when all right, hold hands with your partner across the road. I was the kid. Nobody wanted to touch hands. Nobody wanted to hold my hand. It'd just be dripping with sweat. Even today when I was in the gym, the new kid, that 18-year-old kid, he turned 18 and he's signed up and he's been training for 2 months. He's not used to it. And he had to train with me, the sweatiest guy in the gym. He was you could see, I could see his little, I could see he was slowly getting to grips with, okay, this is how it's, sparring. This is how clinching is going to go. When he grabs the back of my neck, I'm going to feel all of his sweat. But, he would have rathered to be with somebody who's a bit drier. So I have a sympathetic, a hypersensitive sympathetic nervous system is what the doctor said it is, which means that my fight or flight reflex is like a hair trigger. So and I was like, so it got me to lean in. I was like, when he was talking about controlling that was really what hooked me. I was like, teach me how, as simple as that. And then I got deeper and deeper into it and more into it. more and more of the physiology of it made sense to me. And it all resonated with me when he was saying, you're going to feel this and you're going to feel like that. And I was like, man, that's 24 hours walking in these sweaty shoes for me. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So that just made you want to deepen your practice and learn
Yeah.
more.
And that was it. I fully committed to it because I was like, everything else is fine and it works for the people. I get it, hours and hours of hot yoga or whatever is your thing. But this is definitely my thing. This has been my thing. It's just now I have the words to describe what I've been doing my whole life to adapt to these uncomfortable situations and find how to be comfortable in the discomfort of being the new kid in the school with the funny name and the curly blonde hair, or the comfort and the discomfort of having my arm locked in this position with like, I don't know how many stitches, and every twitch of my muscle feels like nerves are being torn. You try sleeping in that, and it's just like, okay, now that I have, and when you equip somebody with the language and the knowledge of what's happening within them, then they can really put the foot down. You can really pump the brakes when you need to and really put the throttle down when you need to. And I just started exploring and experimenting more and more with that and deepening my practice, like you said. Finally, to the point that when we got to the masterclass, we were there with an eclectic group of people. Like even now that we're all following each other on Instagram, and I'm going through people's Instagram profiles, I'm like, wow, these are people who are like, they've been in this industry for a long time. They've been doing this for a long time. They're like yogis and, sound baths and like some crazy, physical. I was looking at Dan. Did you see how much Dan can deadlift on his Instagram?
A lot.
I was like, what? I'm like a foot taller than him. I mean, he's like jacked, but I was like, okay. That takes a lot of commitment, a lot of practice. But when we got there, I was like, okay.
Yeah, an amazing bunch of people though, from such, like you say, such varied backgrounds as well. So through that practice, have there been any? What results have you had that have kind of made you, want to take this to the world? Was there something that you, or a number of things that you achieved, both sort of like be additional clarity or, physically? Did you get that control over your sympathetic nervous system that you were seeking? What breakthroughs have you had that kind of made you go, do you know what? I need to be, teaching other people how to do this.
When I got to the master class, it was the moment while I was there, I did not think I was going to pass we did the test. I flunked the written test, which I thought was going to be my strong suit. I'm a teacher. I've got like 4 university degrees. I was like, okay, this is the part that I'm going to shine. And I failed the test, the written test. And I was like, if I failed this part, I'm screwed for everything else. So it was really what it was when they told me, you've passed, congratulations. And it took that's where I kind of realized, and then it really hit home when I read the feedback, the personalized feedback that was sent to me.
Was there something?
But in the back of my mind, it was before that, as in before the masterclass or before qualifying. Because at the masterclass, there were many moments on many days where I was sitting there in an ice bath with other people, and I was thinking to myself, what is he doing? Or why is she? You're not. Why are you forcing yourself here? Or your lips are going blue. I think it looks to me, and I'm outside of your body, that you've gone past. Finding comfort in this, and this kind of stuff, or I don't know.
Back to what was it that made you apply for the instructor course?
What made me apply for the instructor course?
Yeah, what was
wanting
it?
to wanting to deepen my practice
Yeah.
further. Definitely, that was one.
Yeah.
I wanted to also become part of this community because all of the experiments that I had been doing, I wasn't sure if, you know, what I was doing. And, I had this moment, especially when I was teaching other people. I had already started to talk to other people. I was already instructing people and instructing per se, getting them to do it just because I really believed in it from my personal experience. So when I found that there's a way of formalizing that, I thought, yeah, great, sign me up.
Got you.
As simple as that. And also it's the way that it is like this foundation. It's so, I want to say basic, but fundamental, like the fundamentals of it. It's fertile ground to experiment upon if you are so inclined. And I wanted to do that for my own safety as well, learning my lessons from the past of taking things too far or experimenting with things that maybe I shouldn't have, or not have experimented with things in a safe way. That by deepening my practice, by qualifying and really going through all of this, that I would equip myself, as a level 1 instructor with everything I need to explore things further. And, when I saw that there's like this, level 2, level 3, and if I want to do specialized courses, which I do, like my brother, for example, who's on, I don't know what he's on at the moment in terms of antipsychotic medication and things like that. But there's got to be a better way. Just because the pharmaceutical world and the medical world surrender and say, oh, we don't know the cause of this, and there is no cure for that. And they're just like, I don't know. That's not good enough for me. Like,
no.
We're capable of going to Mars, and and doing all these things in outer space, and creating the internet, and things. You try and explain the internet to somebody, what we're doing right now. Explain that to somebody not that long ago. Explain what we're doing right now to somebody 30 years ago, and they think witchcraft. It's impossible. It's impossible. And if I say that, mind over matter, you can cure yourself of, like, if in 20 years time from now, something like anxiety is laughable, that people were taking drugs to deal with it, laughable.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a huge stretch of the imagination, or psychosis, or, schizophrenia, or what have you. Or we're already seeing it with depression. Take me, for example. Yeah. I mean, it seems so far in the past. It seems, I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to deny it that I did suffer from it, and that I made really piss poor decisions. Really bad decisions that compounded it. That short-termism felt like I was dealing with it well. Hey, at least I was having a good time, and people had fun. People had a good time with me too, but
yeah,
where's the depth to that?
Yeah. Well, I know what you mean. So what would you say? In fact, one question here, there's only one real follow-on question I can ask you from there, is when is your first workshop going to be running?
Good question. So I am doing breathwork classes, just nice, easy, just breathwork once a week at a place called Horsenden Hill Farm. Well, Horsenden Hill, and within the Horsenden Hill, just at the base of it, they have a little farm shop, where they do nice donuts, nice coffee, things like that. That could potentially be, because I don't have a yoga studio, I don't own a gym, so I might do my first workshop there, or look at the logistics, because it all comes down to logistics as well, doing the ice baths when I want to do a full workshop at the Gauntlet Fight Academy, where I'm training Muay Thai at the moment, and MMA and the other things. So, but the answer to the question, when, is, I'm not putting pressure on myself for when. I'm more, I'm in October, I'm going to come up to see you, and I'll assist you with yours. That's more on my mind at the moment. I'm just having fun right now. Just having fun taking people in the woods and doing breathing classes. Today after class at the gym, like the stretches, stretching exercises. That's sort of like protocol. Was a guy who was about my age, and he was like complaining about a click in his hip, and I was like, oh yeah, come over here. And two guys just sat down with me, and I was like, and it's, when people want it, when their motivation is within them, like there's a pain in my hip and I want it to go away. Or another friend of mine at the gym, Mike, who's been having a hard time sleeping lately, his contract ended and he's got stuff going on in his head, and a little bit of anxiety, and he came over as well. And when you have a reason why you want to do it, it's a lot easier. Where I'm finding just this little, just this little 1 hour breathing class, no ice baths, nothing else, just putting my foot in, just dipping my toe in a little bit, walking before I can run. I'm finding that it's harder. It's a greater challenge when people are not sure why they're doing what they're doing. And that's where the workshop excites me, where I'm looking forward. But I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and, go too far too soon. But a full workshop where I can have them in my care for a full 6 hours, with ice baths in between, breathing classes in between, a meal and everything, a full workshop. I'm really looking forward to sinking my teeth into that, but I'm not putting pressure on myself as to when that's going to be.
Okay. No, cool.
Probably sometime after the baby's born.
And there's plenty of other stuff going on, right? So
yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Should we do your last song? Because this is possibly.
I almost forgot the last song.
Yeah, you've got the Beatles and Here Comes the Sun.
Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah. So is this to do with the future? Is this the
Absolutely
is this the of Christmas yet to come?
So the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun. It's sort of like, I really encourage anybody who wants to listen to these songs. They're all beautiful songs, and it was really hard to pick out, from the backlog of songs in my head. And they're all. So I hope I've chose songs that are also, just from a purely musical point of view, people will enjoy them. But Here Comes the Sun is sort of like if you have there's a line in that song in Oasis about the cold and the cold of night, all the stars fade away. So kind of a visual in my mind is all the stars fade away just before the dawn, So when the sun comes up, the stars fade away. It's reframing kind of the thing again, that to stop crying your heart out doesn't mean to stop pouring your heart out. It just means stop crying about it. It's a positive thing. The stars go away, but the sun comes up. It's another day, light and dark, day and night, the duality of man. It's part of being human. So for me, that Here Comes the Sun, and here it's coming. It's something to be excited about. I do have a memory attached to that song as well, if you want me to go into it, but that's
yeah, please do.
I'm banging on again about the masterclass, but yes, it was when they played one of the breathwork sessions. I don't remember which day it was. I don't remember which of the level 3 instructors were taking us through it. Maybe it was the one that they were all doing together, but I remember just tears of joy just pouring out of my eyes, and I was thinking about my baby girl that's coming, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. It's like I almost felt her, I felt like she was there with me, really yeah, I'm gonna go too. And it was just beautiful. And that's the memory I have associated with that. But again, it's not something in the past, because it's something in the future, and it will be every time the sun comes up.
I think what you mentioned there about those sessions as well, I think for anybody that has practiced the Wim Hof breathing and done it with an app or done it themselves, or maybe even been to a small workshop, that breathing in the presence of like 60 other people, the energy levels were just like off the scale in comparison to anything I've ever done. Same for you?
What do you mean in terms of energy levels?
Just like when the feeling of knowing that you were surrounded by a number of other people that were experiencing not necessarily exactly the same sort of physical
there was
feelings
the whole spectrum.
There was a whole spectrum, but the energy, the fluctuation, the roller coaster of emotions and sort of physical
in that
feelings.
sense, yes. In that sense, yes, I do. I've never experienced that. Like, I've been at like music festivals where everybody, is moshing like one organism. I've been to like skate events where people are all losing their mind over one particular trick that something landed, or the kick that in the UFC, like the kick that gets heard around the world, that sort of synchronicity. But I've never shared a space or an experience with so many people going through such deep, it's almost like the other side of the spectrum, but the same intensity. Does that make sense? Like, instead of everybody going outwards and becoming that organism, or everybody, shouting that, instead it's like everybody's going inwards and we're sharing that space. And it's almost like you're looking around the room after and seeing, and I think it did happen with some people where they'd lock eyes with people who were submerged in the same, not the same, but similar emotional state, and you're like, and sort of ended up gravitating towards each other.
Yeah, for me it was deep connection, like you say, through like going inward, but it was a deep connection of complete presence. That's what it was for me. It was like
no words needed,
nothing required, just an absolute sense of like being completely grounded, but of being very just aware. It just made for a very, very like sort of special experiences. Like you said, no words needed. Yeah. So what would you say to let's say convince, persuade, invite, or encourage others to give the Wim Hof method a try? Any kind of like naysayers or skeptics?
I love a good skeptic, me. I like to grab them by the neck and beat them over the head with the science. But no, I have found that doesn't actually work. It's not a very charming approach. What would I say? I would say don't knock it till you try it, man.
What would Wim say?
I don't know. He'd say just go for it. He'd say just do it. Do it once. He'd say just do it once, and if it doesn't, and if it doesn't, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And that is kind of what I have been saying. I'm trying to become less aggressive. You cannot help people who don't want to help themselves. If somebody if somebody has a trick hip or a bad knee, and you're like, that their life will be better.
Yeah.
If they're not walking around with that limp anymore.
Yeah.
Because maybe you've been through it, or maybe you've helped somebody through something similar like that. But it'll be very hard to, if they want to walk around with a limp because, hey, it's like, it's pimp cool or whatever. There's no convincing them otherwise until, they'll have to get to that. They'll have to find themselves in a situation where they're, they need to get the groceries up the stairs, and they're like, yep, I'm looking cool here, but how am I going to get the groceries up with this limp? And that's,
Yeah. I know what you mean. Do you know what I'm laughing at as well? I have to say this because it was when you were said, what was it? Something cool, like cool.
Yeah,
It reminded
cool,
me,
like pimp.
yeah, yeah.
Welcome
Well, it remembered. It just
I'm not
reminded
glorifying pimps, by the way, at all.
Not pimp cool. That's what it was. It reminded me of a phrase that one of your American brothers used and seemed to stick in Poland. And that phrase
was it Chris?
tripping balls.
Tripping balls, man.
When you said pimp cool, I immediately went pimp cool, tripping balls. I don't know why. Yeah. Anyway, listen. I've got one more question for you, if you don't mind. Do you know we've been chatting for an hour and 20 minutes already?
Well, I'm out of coffee, so it's got to be something like that.
And I've had a brilliant time. We could sit on here and chat for hours. But one last question, and it feels a good time. I love the way that you picked your songs, that you've gone past, present, and future. I love that. The way in which you've kind of opened up with the journey there, and kind of, you're at that point where you're like, I'm here because this is where I'm at and this is where I'm going.
That's right.
But one last question: if everything, this is one I don't know whether you have the answer to, but it's not. Oh no, I was getting all geared up. I've got one other question to ask. I've got two. Because you'll love this question, right? If you were Prime Minister right now, what would you change?
You know what I'm going to say?
It's not allowed to be utilities, because last week's guest gave that answer. Well, I mean, it can be if you want, but yeah, what would you change if you were PM?
I would say raise the teachers' salaries in line with inflation at least, because if you think smelly bins is a problem, or having to walk and cycle instead of taking a bus is a problem, people, try. That's nothing compared to raising your own kids for a change, and handling your own kids. You remember lockdown and all those parents who were freaking out about, I don't know what we're going to do with our kids. That is the flip of the switch. People, now that they've experienced that through COVID, they need to realize that is called a teacher strike. Chick, 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 chick. Because we realize it. We know that now.
Thank you. George for PM. All the teachers now, they're like that. George Sakoulas.
I'll start with union rep.
Sakoulas. Sakoulas. Okay, if everything ended right now, right here, it was all over, what would be your biggest regret?
Probably not starting sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I really want to sound really cool and say, I don't believe in regrets, man. It all happens for a reason. But
you know what? We can end on that, because that is Sakoulas.
All right. Appreciate being here.
George, thank you very much. Stay where you are. Just say good night to our viewers, and for when this eventually gets onto Spotify with the rest of them. Listeners, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Awesome. For anyone listening, whereabouts can people find you? Although you're not wanting to be found.
So as a teacher, I have a pretty narrow digital footprint. I keep it pretty tight and I keep it pretty locked down. So at the moment, if you Google Wim Hof Academy instructor George Sakoulas, you'll find my profile there. And I'm working on my website, which is a lot easier for any kind of contact. And from there, that's probably the best place to go. geosak.com. geosak.com, and from there, it's just a card that'll link you out to anything else you want to go to. Wim Hof, Instagram, whatever, Twitter, whatever.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. It's been wonderful. And for everyone that has tuned in, thank you. We will see you on the next JFDI podcast. maybe next Thursday, maybe the Thursday after that. Just need to wait and see. George, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.